It's time again. Canon has once again launched a new RF lens on the market. The new Canon RF 70-200mm 2.8L IS USM Z is available in Germany for just under 3,600 euros at the beginning of 2025 in black and white. The difference between the two is only a few grams. In this video we also take a look at a predecessor and find out whether the new version is really worth it. When I first heard about the new version, I thought to myself, what a nonsense. Same lens, just bigger, how unnecessary. I've been using the predecessor since 2020 and I'm absolutely delighted with its performance. Finally compact, perfect for transport, but the center of gravity shifts significantly when zooming if you plan to use this lens on a gimbal, for example. I picked up the new version and I find out that it weighs only 1,100 grams. For me personally, the new version feels much better in the hand, despite the fact that the two lenses are almost the same size at 200mm. The predecessor weighs 1,070 grams, but feels heavier because the center of gravity varies and it is significantly larger in the hand. With the first version we have a filter diameter of 77mm. With the new Z version you need 82mm. Both are protected against dust and splash water. The lens hood with a filter slot is included with both RF lenses. A completely new feature is the aperture ring, where it is immediately noticeable that the smallest aperture is now 22 and no longer 32 as with the predecessor. On my EOS R3 the aperture ring has no effect in photo mode. In other words, the aperture has not changed. With the R5 Mark II and R1 it serves the same purpose in both photo and video mode. You will find switches for the autofocus and image stabilizer on the side. Incidentally, this varies between 5.5 and 7.5 stops depending on the camera. 5 stops with the old version, by the way. These two programmable buttons can only be found on the new version. They are super useful. I put the tracking on them. As soon as I press this button, the camera starts switching between animals, airplanes, birds and people. These 4 holes on the side are for the zoom adapter for only 1,000 euros extra. You can zoom in even more smoothly. What a nice deal, Canon. A programmable RF ring on which I have placed my focus field can be found directly on the bayonet on the old version. On the new version on the filter. Canon has also changed the focus and zoom ring on both models. I think the arrangement of the rings is much better on the predecessor. This is my personal opinion, by the way, and may completely contradict yours. I think you should try it out for yourself. However, the new version allows you to use a teleconverter, more on this at the end. You can use a programmable RF ring to change the aperture, ISO, shutter speed, white balance, or even the focus field, for example. I find it super practical and use it on a daily basis. I was never dissatisfied with the handling of the first edition. Super compact, easy to pack in the camera backpack or hardshell case and even upright. Now a new version has suddenly came out and in my opinion it simply fits better in my hand. The center of gravity is almost in the same place apart from a few elements that move inside. There's not much going on as with the old version. I also find the Z version easier to grip and the zoom is much softer for my taste, even without spending an extra 1,000 euros. Now you may be wondering how much 70-200mm actually is on a full frame camera. I took these photos of the Frankfurt television tower from the beautiful Palmengarten in Frankfurt with zoom handheld at 70, 100, 135 and 200mm. If you want to use this lens on an APS-C sensor camera, you should keep in mind the crop factor of 1.6. In addition, the new version has extremely short zoom range. You can go completely from 70 to 200mm with just half a turn. Brilliant. I can always rely on my first version when things need to move quickly. All through I had a lock switch so that the zoom didn't simply extend. It was a brilliant lens when it came to action, sports or wildlife. Now it takes up more space in my camera bag, but the new RF 70-200 Z shines with an extremely good performance. Super fast autofocus, which will come in a moment. You are prepared for every situation, weather, press, wedding, sport, portraits or animal photography. A perfect all-rounder for such things. It's also great for video. We spent 2 days walking through Frankfurt. We tested the lens on the Canon EOS R3 and R5 Mark II at every opportunity and zoomed in. The focus was always right and we were able to capture every conceivable moment. In other words, if you travel a lot, whether on business, on vacation or in the city, it's a really great lens for architecture and details. Stray lights can be extremely beautiful to bring in a natural flare into the picture or extremely disturbing. Depending on the situation, you sometimes get a lot of lens flare and sometimes very little. For example, when I photograph a model before sunset, I like the flare. It's also extremely nice for macro shots with the sun in the background. If they bother you, definitely use the lens hood and change the angle of the light, but see for yourself. So I hope you enjoy watching this video so far. If you do, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, to subscribe, and if you would like to actively support my channel, you can find, for instance, the monitor I use to record the electronic viewfinder, the external microphone, the power bank I use to charge my Canon EOS R5 Mark II and R3 with power delivery, or the lens or the camera in the link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and now let's continue. I also like to sweat for my subscribers in winter, hence the ultimate autofocus test with me and the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. Once in photo mode and once in video mode. 100% action for you, plus a comparison with my old version, but see for yourself. We couldn't see any difference except at close range. The new version focused a little faster in video mode than with the first version. In any case, a fast memory card, the correct focus field, and the servo are essential. We were in the beautiful Palmengarten in Frankfurt, and there I was able to test the autofocus on a few cute baby geese, swans and other birds. At first I had completely underexposed and saw these white frames on the screen on my Canon EOS R5 Mark II. Once I had exposed correctly, I realized that the camera had directly tracked everything that was moving in front of my camera. In other words, very good focus and tracking. It is important that you tell the camera what to track. In other words, if you have selected a vehicle in autofocus mode but have a bird in front of you, don't expect 1 + 1 = 2. Incidentally, the minimum focusing distance of the first generation was fixed at 70 centimeters and therefore already significantly better than the last EF version at over 1 meter. The new Z model has a variable closest focusing distance of only 49 centimeters at 70 millimeters and 68 centimeters at 200 millimeters. Already extremely good for a telephoto lens. It won't make my RF 100mm macro obsolete, but the thought was at least there for a moment. Extremely good for details such as flowers, rings at weddings, and everything else the world out there has to offer. But also when it comes to taking pictures in nature. Simply a super beautiful lens. Both actually. Sure, you can get closer to flowers with the new version, but the results are impressive with both lenses. And of course, where should a 70 to 200mm with a 2.8 aperture not be missing? Right, for portraits. The lens for weddings, shootings, outdoor and fashion. It's a lens you can't do without for such jobs, but see for yourself. I asked my trusted photo dealer which has sold more so far, the black or the white version. In fact, the black one. Perhaps simply because it's new or because so many people also use their EOS R models for filming. In fact, I see more dark lenses than white lenses among videographers. In the end, it's the final result that counts, but video recordings with the new RF 70-200 2.8 Z looks very movie-like. Incidentally, they also look that way with the predecessor. You now get an even more beautiful bokeh with the new Z version, as you can simply get even closer to everything than with its predecessor. However, the devil is in the detail. I had a look and realized that the new version has 11 aperture blades instead of 9. This means even more round bokeh balls than with the old version. In any case, a great lens for separating the foreground from the background. One thing that probably upset many people when they bought the old version was that they couldn't use a teleconverter. Canon offers a 1.4x and a 2x converter. This gives you 98 to 280 mm on a 35 mm sensor with a maximum aperture of 4. With the 1.4x converter and a 140 to 400 mm with a maximum aperture of 5.6 with the 2x converter. We tried out the 2x converter, which retails under just 600 euros, and took these handheld shots. If you have the old version and were completely satisfied with it without ever missing anything, then keep it. You still have a lens that is absolutely up to date. If you film on a gimbal and need roughly the same center of gravity, then you should test the new Z version model. If you're primarily filming and money is no factor, then the new version is for you because of the additional zoom adapter for even better handheld shots. I like the arrangement of the rings on the old version better, especially the RF ring. Zooming is much easier and only takes half a turn with the new version. You can get closer to everything you want to photograph and film with the new version. If you're going on safari, I would take the new version simply because you can use the teleconverter. It takes up much less space in your camera bag than a 400mm 2.8. A safari usually takes place during bright daylight conditions. Despite the 5.6 aperture, you can still use 1/1000 of a second shutter speed. Definitely a great lens for weddings, portraits, video and traveling. Now I'm curious about your opinion. What do you think about the new edition? You can actively support my channel by buying the memory card, camera, monitor and so on via the link in the video description below. If you live in Germany and you like to get one of these two lenses or cameras, send me an email and I'll connect you with my favorite photo place. Until then, all the best from Frankfurt. See you soon und tschüss.